All right, guys, welcome to another episode of the Manaverse Podcast. I'm your host, Tom Traplin, and I have with me my two co-hosts. We'll start on the left side, for me, anyways. We have Gary Sproul. Say hi, Gary.
Hello, everyone. I'm Gary Sproul. I'm the owner of the Haunted Game Cafe in Fort Collins, Colorado, and we were one of the first game cafes in North America.
Hey guys,
Sweet.
and I'm John Coviello. I own the little Shop of Magic here in Las Vegas, Nevada. We've been around for about 21 years. We're one of the few stores that I know that moved across a state line, basically. But we've been in Vegas for the last 11 years and loving it.
Cool, cool. And yeah, as we were talking about, we were going to do some intros. That was pretty good. Maybe next week we'll have something a little more in-depth and interesting and funny and all that good stuff. But we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. So today we're going to discuss something that's I don't know relevant to probably a fair number of stores at this point in our modern age, but that's going to be online sales. Getting into the e-commerce game, like how to get started. What's the process of actually incorporating online sales into your existing game store, and like should you do it in the first place? It depends on your situation, but we're gonna kind of dig in and break it down because Gary and John both have experience, different degrees of experience with online sales, and yeah. So if somebody wanted to get, let's just start off right at the beginning. If somebody wanted to get into online sales, they've got a store, they're doing business, and they're thinking, hey, I should get on the internet. What's the first step?
So you probably want to figure out how you're going to do it, or what platform you should use. I guess I suppose that would be one thing, right? How are you going to put your products on your website, or are you going to use a third party? I mean, nowadays, we started doing online sales back in '96, right? So this segues a little bit into what we were talking about last episode, or was it the episode before last, where we talked about a website, right? You have a lot more choices nowadays. When we started, eBay wasn't a thing. Amazon didn't exist. But nowadays you have a lot of choices. And probably the easiest thing to do to begin with would be to find a third-party platform that you want to work on. Say it's eBay or it's Shopify or whatever, that basically you can use. It's got everything built in for you, rather than building something from the ground up yourself. I think, Thomas, didn't you have a list of sort of like what's available these days?
Yes, I definitely do. I've got the major players in the game at least. But before I get into that, like, what do you guys use for your platforms?
Well, we use our own website. We used Amazon and eBay for a while, but I found that to be not profitable. So I eventually just shut it down, and now we sell just straight out of our own website.
Why? Before we jump in, John, just like why wasn't it profitable?
Amazon fees. The Amazon fees were cutting up a big part of what we did. You have to sell a tremendous volume in order to make up that fee because the prices on Amazon are so very low. Whereas on our website, we can charge what we want to charge. There's almost no fees, and we can make sure that we're selling at the rates and the numbers that we want to sell at.
Okay.
And for us, all of the above. We started our online store in '96. I like to have as many selling channels as possible. So we do Amazon, we do Barnes& and Noble, we do Kibo, which used to be called Shopatron. We looked at Sears. To be honest with you, if it's a selling platform, I'll consider and look at it. We used to do eBay. We don't do eBay anymore. eBay, because of some of the things that Gary talked about, the fees are high. The work involved is high. It's a lot of maintenance, and it's really geared towards. And it makes sense for them. They diversified into we're an auction site and we do collectibles and things like that. So if you're in that kind of market, Disney pins to like rare vintage automobiles, it makes sense. You're doing fewer auctions that demand a higher price because they're hard to find items, and you're not competing with that many people. Right? If you got a 1950s catalog, your chances of having another person that's got it in mint condition, restored, whatever, are fewer than if you have a product off your shelf in my store. So we don't do eBay anymore. With the rare occasion of like, oh look, we landed a mint condition out of print board game that's going for $300 on Amazon. We do a lot with Amazon. To be honest with you, it's six digits. I don't want to throw it away. But Gary's 100% right. Amazon is not oh, I'm going to dabble with it. Amazon is, you will do volume and it changes your business considerably. You have to have a dedicated staff to handle just that channel. It is, and there's some pretty bad penalties if you're not able to keep up with the volume you're going to generate there. So they will shut you off and you will lose that income entirely. So you got to be sort of like, if you're going to get into that, really a step up on your game with online sales. Not my recommended first choice for anybody who wants to start doing online sales.
Yeah, you can't play around with that stuff. You can't go, well, it'll ship a little late, or oh gosh, we made a mistake. Somebody ordered something we don't actually have, so we have to cancel the order. Yeah, John's absolutely right. Amazon wants customer service to be. They want people to be able to rely on the site, so they will shut you down if you don't fulfill those orders.
But because of what Gary said too, my online store will always be there because I have total control over that. I don't on Amazon, and we use an online shopping system that's built into our content management system, which is Joomla. So it's called Media Shop. Not my favorite. We're going to move away from it probably next year, but in the meantime, it's integrated to our website.
And that's the big thing you have to think about right off the bat is, am I going to go with a third party or my own? Meaning the question really is, how much work am I going to put into learning how this system works? You can sell through your own website, and there are websites that have built-in plugins or things that are built right into it. OpenCart is simple to use, but there's a lot of settings. There's a fairly steep learning curve into how exactly do you set up shipping, how exactly do you set up postage, how exactly do you set up the weights and sizes of things, because that is the difference between making money and not making money. If you just let that stuff slide and people are paying $5 postage for something that ends up costing you $7, that's a big problem.
Yeah, don't do online sales if you can't do math. I'll tell you that right.
Well, it's worse than math. It's trying to figure out postal regulations, which often which often have no relationship to actual reality.
Yeah, that's harrowing, potentially. Okay, so
it's bad when you go visit the post office and you know more than the postal clerk that's sitting behind the counter. I mean, that's literally, I've had that happen. So
that is not unusual. Yep.
Well, you get pretty in depth into this stuff, right? And
Sure.
Usually they're just dealing with the customers.
Correct.
Yeah,
Right.
they let the computer make all the decisions for them. So we talked about a few of the platforms. We mentioned eBay, Shopify, some of the major players, and this is also kind of, each one has different strengths based off of what you're selling. So in a lot of cases, a game store might be selling board games, right, online, as well as cards and other potentially shippable products like miniatures or something. And each one requires a different system, really, to manage it. Because if we think of something like Channel Fireball, right, all they do is sell like singles, essentially. Like, I'm sure they sell sealed product, but that's probably a tiny portion of the number of products they actually sell. And selling singles requires a very different system. And like one of the things that that we do use, or that a lot of game stores have used, is a program called Crystal Commerce. Right? But its strength is in its focus on the hobby industry. So I'm pretty sure you use that, Gary, right?
Yes, I do. That's the system we use, is Crystal Commerce.
And how do you like it?
If you are okay with its strengths and its weaknesses, I like it a lot. It does the things that I needed to do. It integrates seamlessly our inventory with what we're selling online. It allows us to do the data input, especially when you're talking about the sheer volume of things that we're doing. I mean, John was mentioning earlier, I mean, we're not selling one or two collectible things. We're selling a large number of commodity products. So that data entry gets to be pretty onerous. So if you can just import that information into a system and then sell it, then you got the pictures and the descriptions and all that information for very little time. The margins on online sales can be pretty thin. I mean, John's got a crew of people doing just that, and unless you get to that volume where you can pay not just for the product and the shipping, but to pay those people, it's tough to do.
I unfortunately don't have any experience with with the Crystal Commerce. When they first presented themselves to my store, we were already a step ahead of them. We had synchronization, we had our system, and it didn't make a lot of sense to give up that control. And I believe, how does it work? Is it still a monthly subscription fee? And then if you decide to mirror your products on Amazon or third-party selling sites, they take a percentage off of that. And am I right? Is it still going on like that?
That's exactly right. They charge a monthly fee, which is typical of all cloud-based services. They charge a monthly fee for the server time and the support, and then they take a percentage of each online sale. So there's no charge if I sell something in the store, so I can have as many terminals and as many lanes as I want and sell as many things as I want. But when you start getting into online sales, then they do take a portion of it. Now, a lot of our online sales are not really online sales. So what we do is we encourage our customers to place their orders online. So what they'll do is they'll place an order, on their phone, often sitting in the shop or sitting at home, and they'll just bring out their phone and go, oh, they have what I want. I'll place an order, and then they come into the shop and pick it up, and then it gets rung up as an inside the store sale, so not an online sale.
Sure. And
so we do a lot of online business, but we don't ship it, right? They just pick it up.
And that's something that's definitely going to become more common that a lot of people don't understand. People want the convenience to be able to pick it up, get it ready. I mean, that's what I do at Sam's Club. When we restock our concessions, I'm not going to wait there and go through the aisles and pick up. It's all ready to go for me. It's paid for. Any of my employees can go and pick it up, and it's set and go out the door. That's the way things are going to go in the next 10 years. I mean, anyway, so that's an argument for. I'm going to put in one more interjection of why I don't use Crystal Commerce. And I think if you're just beginning, it's something you want to look into, okay? They do a lot of the groundwork for you. They do a lot of the setup and et cetera, et cetera. So as a beginner, it's something that is invaluable to you because it saves you a lot of time. And now, I don't use it, so I can't speak to it to myself, but when the users don't endorse it 100%, and there's a sort of growing list of complaints that I hear that don't get addressed, that would be a red flag for me to not even want to look at it. That, and the fact, obviously, for me, I'm sort of one step ahead or at their same level without having to incur the extra fees. So for me, it was a no-go on that one.
When you get more experienced with software like this, you start to see things like John was saying about, you're not seeing regular improvements to the system. You're seeing, that they're putting more and more effort into just keeping the system running and not improving it. Also, when you get to be a more experienced retailer, you're going to want more in-depth reporting out of your software. You're going to want to know exactly the nitty-gritty of what sold and when it sold and how much money I made and how much money per square foot a particular area of the store is making. And there's a lot of little granular reports that you're going to want as you get more experienced. And a lot of these online softwares, and Crystal Commerce is particularly guilty of this, that the reporting is just basically hopeless. It gives you some broad numbers and that's about it. But there are other people right now working on competitive systems. There's a gentleman working on a system using OpenCart to be adapted direct to the hobby industry that is very promising right now. It's called IMPOS, IMP.
Keeping my fingers crossed.
Yes.
Man, we should talk to this guy. Get him on the show.
You absolutely should. You absolutely should.
We'll get you in touch.
Yep.
Sounds good. And I wanted to roll back a little bit before we got too far. I wanted to make it that we were talking about how you could place your orders in your store and just go pick it up, and how it's an online sale, but it's not quite an online sale. And I think that's a pretty interesting distinction to make, in that you can sell online without actually shipping, without going through like this whole incorporation of a shipping process. And that's like a very different model. You can still take advantage of the whole platform that you're selling online without really doing anything different in your business, whereas actually incorporating picking and packing and shipping, that's like a whole other ball game, right? So
and let's be clear, it's the shipping that's the pain in the butt here.
Yeah,
I mean, actually Actually, pulling the product is fairly trivial, but
Yeah, you're
the
gonna do that
shipping
already.
part, and you have to do that. But the shipping, and of course, there's a fee for wherever you're getting your postage from, whether it's in DC or some other company. Guess what? They charge a fee. So yeah, figuring out the shipping is definitely the hard part of this part.
Yeah, and like John said, you have to be able to do math and add up all those costs to make sure you're not actually
Well,
losing money every time you do this.
and Gary's right. You have to be able to figure it out. But let's just talk about just general stuff like you got to have packing peanuts. You got to have boxes. You got to. Most stores don't have the space for that. I mean, literally, it becomes you're like, oh, it's great. I want to ship board games. You know how many different size boxes you got to have to ship a board game these days? It's nuts, right?
Mm-hmm.
Between the priority mail boxes, the standard brown boxes, padded flat rate envelope, it. Yes,
Yeah.
there's a list of supplies and space and requirements that are needed for that. But
Whenever publishers ask my advice about anything, the first thing I tell them is grab a standard flat rate box, all the three sizes or the four different sizes, and make sure your game fits in one of those. You will be happier and we will be happier.
I think board game publishers should be limited to three size boxes, and that's it. You get small, medium, and large. We're done. Okay.
That's actually not a terrible idea. Like
No,
standardized box sizes would make this whole process, this whole industry, like it would transform everything.
it's
If
just
if
for my shelf.
But
Yeah, yeah. If you're doing a Kickstarter for your game, you'd be incredibly stupid to not make sure that it fits into a standard size flat rate box because
For
you're
your
going to be doing the shipping yourself.
Yeah, for your own good, exactly.
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, so that was Crystal Commerce. A few of the other ones that I want to go over were TCG Player as it is online sales, but it's a market, right? Rather than just your own platform. So it's a little bit different from what we were talking about before. And do either of you have Crystal Commerce integrates with TCG Player if you want. Do you take advantage of that?
That is one of Crystal Commerce's strong suits is it directly integrates with Amazon and TCG Player. And I have to admit, I have not. I have not even bothered to try and integrate with TCG. Mostly the bandwidth of labor problem, but also we do fine business selling singles in our store at the rate we want to sell them. So we don't really want to send all of our stock out of state instead of selling it to our customers.
Sure, and
Yeah.
we don't, not because we don't want to, but because of the current, our singles, we really neglected them. And it's something that once we get this move finished, we want to bring back online. So we looked at the TCG Player presentation this past April when we were at GTS, or was it March? I forgot. But anyways, and we're very interested. Again, it's a selling channel. It's something that I want to do. But it's another steep learning curve, and they don't really have a good way for me to synchronize. So potentially, I might have to go to Crystal Commerce just for single sales, see how much that makes. Just do singles through Crystal Commerce and integrate with TCG Player so that my inventory is synchronized on that part. Now, singles, I don't know because I haven't messed with TCG Player. If they're not as draconic as, say, Amazon, where sale comes in, you can cancel it and you don't get penalized for it, then it shouldn't be as big of a deal other than customer disappointment where I'm like, oh, look, I sold the revised edition, but I have fourth edition of that one. Do you want that one instead? Versus like on Amazon, that would never work. You would literally get in hot water in about 5 seconds. When you start having product sold that's not in your stock, you pretty much get shut down. So open to investigation.
I believe they are more lenient about those things because of the number of oversells, which is another problem with selling online, is that even if you do have your software integrate with their software, there's never perfect communication between them. It's the internet. Things are going to break down. There's going to be lag. There's going to be various things that go wrong. And almost certainly you are going to get orders for things that you are sold out of simply because it lost communication. You're going to get what's called oversells, which is you've sold things that you don't actually have. You took 10 orders for 5 items. So yes, you are going to have to deal with apologizing to customers and telling them that they're not going to get what they ordered, which is always super hard for us to do,
How often
for
does it
any
happen?
retailer to do. Very often,
Really?
very often. Yeah. Whenever card sets get spoiled, whenever new sets come out, the day a new set comes out, there's going to be, a large number of sales volumes that day. You're going to see oversells a lot whenever there's a huge Magic tournament. Whoever wins the Magic tournament, that's the hot deck, and people want the key cards out of that deck. So you're gonna see a ton of people ordering 2 or 3 particular key cards from a deck within half an hour of each other. So
And for us, since pretty much everything we sell is also, well, with the exception of things we're prohibited to sell online, we see it like, for example, if you're talking about board games, Will Wheaton puts it on his show on tabletop, and all of a sudden we have a run on that. Or a product goes out of stock at the manufacturer, and we'll see it within hours because the prices start climbing online, and we don't necessarily adjust our prices. So we become the cheapest price, such as retail or 10% off, and we sell out in minutes. And I'm going to quantify something. Whenever somebody's selling you on instant inventory synchronization, there is no such thing. Okay, there is fast. There's faster. We do it once a day. Our inventory syncs once a day, and it works for our needs. If we ever get to a much higher volume, then we'll look about synchronizing every hour. That's bandwidth, and that's system processing times and all that good stuff. But Gary was right. Any interruption in the communication between the different channels, right? We use stamps.com to ship, and it automatically, when we create a label, depending what market it came in from, sends them the tracking information. And it'll glitch. We will go one day, and it's like, hey, it's been several hours. Why is this not confirmed and shipped? When you talk about the internet, all kinds of things can happen. So even though your inventory is supposed to be synchronized, oversells will happen. It's just the way it is.
All right. Danger number 1, oversells. Okay, and so Crystal Commerce, TCG Player. The other 2 I've got written down. We've mentioned one of them, eBay. eBay being probably, well, eBay and Amazon being the most common, most well-known, I would think.
we haven't tried eBay for all the reasons that John mentioned. It's really just designed more for lower numbered, higher cost items. There are plenty of people selling on eBay. How they're making money at it, I don't know, because my math says you can't. It's with those kind of products, it's basically a garage sale. Everybody's trying to get the absolute lowest price. So my math says it just doesn't work for us.
Yeah, and there's the hidden, we're back to hidden fees, right? When you're looking at eBay, it's not a hidden fee, but it's the reality. You will pay for every auction listed. Now, eBay's doing something to try to abate those fees, where you get 50 free listings a month, or you pay a certain dollar amount per month and get free listings. But there's a time involved with managing those listings and relisting every 7 days or whatever not. So it seems to me the way you make money on that is not in our industry, unless maybe with singles. But I also kind of feel like the people shopping on eBay are looking for the lowest possible price on that single. So you're sort of racing to the bottom there. I could be wrong. Like I said, I haven't looked at it in several years, but not for us. We moved away from it. I think if we started doing a little more collectibles, we would look at it and put select items up on eBay. But for the most part, no. Straight off the shelf item, any GW, well, okay, you can't sell GW product, but any miniature game or board game, it's really not worth it.
Yep, fair points. I wanted to mention that I don't know if you guys do sealed product with regards to Magic for your online sales, but one of the interviewees that I had on my show a long while ago, Dirium's CCGs, they make like a big chunk of their revenue is generated solely from selling booster boxes at like almost no margin on eBay, but they'll move hundreds and hundreds of these things over the course of a month at $1 a pop profit margin. So like it's not impossible, but it is thin.
That's
super thin.
That's a lot of work.
Yes.
For not much money.
Yeah, you're 100% right. And it's kind of funny because I'm just listening to part one of that on my drive to work today, and his exact number was $1.87 a box, and he said, "Hold on, he moves 200. He moved. He in the interview, and I don't know if that's changed. He had stopped doing eBay, I believe it was, because of some problems with like returns and
Yep.
issues like that. But so if we're looking at 200 boxes a week, and people go, "Oh my God, that's a lot of magic." It's a pretty good amount. 200 bucks a week is nothing to frown upon, but that's $374 at $1.07 each, right? So if we're looking at this, that pays for an employee to box it up and ship it out, maybe. I mean, um, so I always look at it from the perspective of why am I doing all this work and what is it taking away from my store when I do this?
Yeah. Yeah, you have to think of what you're missing out on because of having the online sale. What
It's
Take
that's a it's a tough that's a tough road to hoe. There are upsides to it. I mean, a lot of people get to know your name, and of course, your distributor is going to love you
Oh, for
Sure.
because you're
sure.
buying a lot of product from them. So when special editions of things come out, yeah, it's guys that do that kind of volume with their distributor that are going to get attention.
Sure. And I'm going to get into this a little bit further down when we go into why not. You're also creating another problem. You're making some enemies and you're creating an environment that's toxic. And we'll talk about that maybe later. But yeah, it's again, why? Why do you want to do all this work for $1.87 a box? Right? I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah. Well,
We talk about that a lot, and we're getting off track. But yeah,
yeah.
devaluing a product that your livelihood depends on is generally not a good idea.
And that's kind of the topic that we're going to get into in a second after we talk about the last platform that I've got written down. One that's fairly popular that kind of blew up in the last 2, 3 years or so. It's Shopify. Now, Shopify is made for, it's a very easy to use platform. It's very simple to set up in a lot of ways that Crystal Commerce, I'm sure, is pretty easy to set up because they kind of do most of the work for you. But Shopify is it's almost, from if we remember from last week's episode of the Roundtable, it was kind of like Squarespace for e-commerce. It's just like you sign up for the site or you buy the subscription because that's how they operate. And they build the storefront for you. You pick a theme and it looks great. You just put some pictures on it and they make the back end for actually inputting your products is really user friendly. It's not meant for tech people. It's meant for people who've never ever been online before. So there are advantages for Shopify, but at the same time, it's not really built for having like a million different items. It's meant kind of along. It's a halfway in between Crystal Commerce, where you can list 100,000 magic cards, different magic cards, and having like 100 or 200 different board games. It's like somewhere in that center gray area.
Yeah, last I looked into them, they had a cap at the number of products that you could list for, that they have basic tier levels of fees, but I forget what the cap was, but it was lower than I would have wanted to see. But if you're specializing in a small number of things, like if I was doing
Yeah.
a war game, you know, website and I was going to super specialize in that, then you might consider somebody like them where
Yeah.
it's you're appealing to a niche and you can make up the fees that they charge, which are significant. Ease of use is one side and fees is the other.
Yeah, it's usually how it goes.
Well, and potentially also if you're just starting up, right? I mean, if you have a 1,000 square foot store and you have maybe 200 items in there, you might want to consider it. Do you know? I didn't look into it too much because of what you guys have talked about here. The number of SKU limitation is just makes it out for me right off the bat. But what's intriguing, it seemed to have some kind of integration with social media, with Facebook. Did you deal with that at all, Thomas, when you looked at them?
How do you mean?
I don't know. It seemed like it was like their ads that I kept running across on Facebook was like, Shopify, start selling on Facebook. So I was
Yes.
curious how.
They do have a Facebook page integration so that when somebody goes to your Facebook page for your store, it'll one of the tabs that appear on the page is like shop here, and it'll turn
Yes.
into basically a simple version of your Shopify store. So none of the infrastructure, just the listings, and people could buy right out of your Facebook page.
So potentially one use I could see for my store would be to use it as just another advertising medium, right? You select a certain number of hot selling moving products and you put them in the Shopify store. If it's worth the fees, I mean, I'd have to look at it. And then literally just use it as one more channel that you're kind of advertising your store and your products basically.
Yeah, and that's also a very viable way of using it. And then, yeah. So before we move on again, the other last item was a custom build, something that like you come up with yourself, in the same vein that John has created his own system for selling things. And it's kind of like what we were saying before. Generally speaking, if you have most of the work taken care of it for you right at the beginning, then you end up paying for it through margins and fees and stuff like that. And if you put the work yourself at the front, then you kind of reap the benefit later on. But it's a measurement of whether or not you can afford to do it at the beginning.
Sure.
Like how much time and money do you have to invest in creating your own system, right?
Right, exactly right. And that is how I got in my very, very early start in this business, was setting up an online site with an open source system called Zencart, Z-E-N cart, which, like all open source software, is super adaptable. You can do a ton of things with it. And of course, the downside is better be an expert. There are many a night that I completely broke my website because I just wrote a tiny little piece of PHP code that was wrong, and the whole website goes down.
I don't think you have to write it. You can just put in a third-party plugin. All of a sudden, you're in what happened hell. So, yeah.
Not with open source. You can't.
Really?
No. The days of just writing a little bit of HTML and changing the way you want your stuff to appear are long gone. You're going to need more programming expertise than that.
Sure, and I caution people to take my approach because it's been built over years, and it is, even if you're getting something like Zencart or Mijo Shop, or it gets techie. It gets really, really techie. So either be prepared to have somebody either on staff that you're paying well, or be prepared to pay for good support, or just spend a lot of time away from running your business and dealing with your website. It's not an easy thing to do. So approach with caution, I would say.
For sure. All right, so yeah, we've basically gone over the major platforms that you can use to sell your products online. Now, one of the biggest concerns, I think, of people who are coming to go into online sales, and we mentioned it earlier, was that how do they feel about pricing their products and competing against one another, and especially Amazon. Amazon is the 800-pound gorilla in the online sales market. Everyone knows Amazon is the one to go to for the most part. So if you're going to sell your products online, and you have to be aware that you're going to be competing directly with Amazon. In some cases, literally, like, the same product can be on both sites. And yeah, online sales, the kind of lowest common denominator. Prices tend to fall rapidly because it's a shared market. So what would you say to somebody who is thinking about getting in, thinking about starting to sell their products online, but is concerned that maybe they have to do that super deep discount in order to actually make any sales?
All right. So competing with Amazon, if you want to compete on price, you're doing it wrong. I mean, it's just, you're going to lose that race, okay? What we found is that, I'm going to beg to differ with you, it's not always the lowest common denominator. There's a number of reasons why people shop on Amazon, and price is one of them. But they're so trained to go to Amazon thinking that it's the lowest price, they won't even bat an eye to add to cart. Amazon has a thing called the buy box. You don't have to be the cheapest one. You just can earn that buy box if you're in that ballpark. People are trained to go to add to cart on that buy box, and it's end of story. They don't even look at all the possible options from everybody else. Now, for our online sales, what we find is we build customer loyalty. So there will be people that shop for us either on Barnes & Noble or Amazon through our online store or in our store because they want to shop with us, not because necessarily we're the cheapest ones. I mean, most of the stuff we sell are really 10% off, to be honest with you. That's it. Unless it's a dog and I'm trying to get rid of it. That's where I stop. Again, I don't like to do a lot of work for no return. Okay. Um, so we don't want to compete with Amazon. For that customer that is just, or eBay or any, that is just looking at the cheap bottom price, they're not my customer. I'm not going to engage with them. It's just not going to happen. No matter what I do, I can't show them the value of what I offer, which is not just the price, the place to play, place to come and learn the games, et cetera, et cetera. That customer is just budget minded, or economically challenged, or whatever you want to call it. It's just not going to be my customer. Or he could just be, one of those people that just doesn't get it. And that's fine. I'm okay with that. I'm not going to engage in I'll lower my prices. Because the reality of that is, at that point, I might as well just start selling light bulbs and not worry about it, right? Find something that works, not this game stuff where I have to sell at $1.87 a box, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, your reputation on Amazon is a big part of it, and it will get you the earned that front page status of, buy it through this guy, and then there's a tiny little piece of print, and also available from these other places. So once you get onto that front page, that is the most important part. Being able to offer free shipping, that's a huge thing. Most the places that know what they're doing will not discount so much, but they will give free shipping, so that it gives us the people mostly what they're looking for is, I don't have to pay shipping. All right, good. And then they don't look, as John said, they don't really look at, is it 10% off or 15% off, or whatever the exact number is. So reputation is a very big part of it. Now, how you earn that reputation is with ridiculously good customer service, which means that you always ship out everything super fast. If there's ever a problem with anything, you eat it, right?
Yes.
I said I didn't get it. We'll send you another one. It arrived damaged. You keep it. We'll send you another one. All right. You've got to really go out of your way and often lose money to make sure that you could keep that reputation high.
And if you ever think you're losing it when you send out a board game and they say they didn't receive it, think about those people that sell iPhones or TVs on Amazon. When they lose it big. So it's the price you have to pay if you want to engage in that kind of. It's got to be spot on 100% customer service. I'm going to interject one more thing and reveal a little trade secret here on at least one item. Sometimes you don't have to compete with Amazon. Again, I go back to, there's this sort of idea that the only way to sell online is to discount and discount and discount. There isn't. You can also find niche items. They work really well at retail or sometimes above retail. They just sell, period. Like, I don't know why this is. And I'm talking about this item in particular because we're not allowed to sell it anymore online. So feel free to steal this idea and good luck getting it through Asmodee's head right now. But before the Asmodee ban, if you guys are familiar with Xwing, they came out with a product. It is great. It's a 3x3 playmat that you play Xwing on, right? It's made out of neoprene, just like a Magic playmat, just oversized, right? We were averaging 1 to 2 playmats a day sold at full retail, okay? And that's telling me a couple of things. It's an item that people aren't really putting in their stores, I'm guessing, because I'm not offering anything special on it. I'm not giving you free shipping. They were paying shipping on it too, or anything like that. But we were selling the heck out of it. So there are items that are underrepresented, or they're in demand in the market that's not represented by a friendly local game store, or, well, there's a possibility that that customer is upset at that not so friendly local game store and has decided not to get their products from there. And frankly, I would like to serve that customer. I want to earn their business. I want to take care of them. I want to give them what I can. So there are a lot of items. If you're smart, you start looking at it and going, okay, this is an item I can carry online, and this is an item I'm not going to bother with because, by that same token, the big problem with Xwing was that they were just ripping it apart at the prices for the blisters and the ships and things like that. So we just understand you win sometimes and sometimes you lose, but I'm not willing to lower my price just to try to sell one more Xwing model. I'll just sell the playmats.
Fair enough. So let's talk about what you mentioned there, and also Games Workshop, because that slides right in there pretty easily. So both those companies have put a ban on selling their products online,
A limited ban, yes.
limited ban. So I believe you can advertise your Games Workshop products. You can say, hey, come in to the store and buy my stuff, but you can't literally
Yeah.
sell the models and then ship them to the people anymore. That's
Yeah,
not allowed.
there's some more restrictions, like you can't use your pictures. Basically, fundamentally, with Games Workshop, you can't use a shopping cart that allows you to check out the items and sell them online, basically, right? You can say, hey, I'm sending you a list of the stuff that's coming out next week through an email or whatever. Now, what do you want? And sell it that way. For example, when that happened, a lot of our customers just switched to, they read our weekly GW newsletter in order through the phone, through our online customer service, and it ends there. But we can't put in a shopping cart. It's the big limitation with that. Asmodee is the same way, except that what Christian explained to me is you can actually have an online shopping system, but you can't check out online. So fundamentally, you can do it. Well, oh man, it's difficult to remain correct on this one. But I can advertise the products. They can put it in the shopping cart, but it can be for in-store checkout only. So I can't take their payment online, which doesn't work for a lot of online shopping systems. We're looking at this new system specifically because they can potentially do that. And those are the big restrictions. No matter what, you're not allowed to list on third-party sites like Barnes and Noble and Amazon, et cetera, et cetera. So those are the current in place. GW has been going on for several years. Asmodee North America, which encompasses Days of Wonder, Fantasy Flight, and a whole bunch of other brand names.
And
Yeah.
as of yesterday, yet another one.
Did they finish the acquisition, or
I know they announced it, but I don't know if it's finished.
they announced that they were entering negotiations to buy Z-Man Games and Plaid Hat Games?
Plaid Hat is the other one, owned by what is it, F2P or
Yeah, I forget what it is. I think
the
it's
parent
F2Z,
company.
but it's
Yes.
a conglomerate of 2 or 3 ones. So, yeah. So that's what they are. But what was the original question? I'm sorry, I lost it.
I guess there wasn't really a question in that. It was just more of a statement that these companies have gone backwards. They're fighting the natural tendency, I think, of they're the trend for stores to go online and sell their products online, and they're trying to pull back on this trend. It's kind of like it's kind of a why. So why would they do this?
The reason stated is to protect brick and mortar stores and basically stop the devaluation of products. So I'm going to make an acknowledgement. We cannot have an industry that operates on a 40 to 45% discount. It will not work. We will shut down. The publishers will shut. It just, believe it or not, we're not like clothing stores that have a markup of 700%, right? I mean, if we buy an item for $5, we're pretty much lucky if we can sell it for 10, okay? And it sounds like a lot of money, but in reality, when you look at it, it really is not compared to other industries. So that whole 40% off, well, who cares? Because I paid 2 cents for it and I'm selling it for $10. So yeah, I can afford to sell it for 6. It doesn't work in our industry. The general problem I have, though, with both Games Workshop and Asmodee is that they're not really addressing this market devaluation. In both cases, what they've done is prevented legitimate brick and mortar stores from having a selling channel. And being able to have this resource that fuels, yes, my online sales, but also diverts money into my brick and mortar store, right? I can buy better fixtures. I can highlight your products better. I can afford more staff if I have another selling channel, if I got a greater revenue stream. Asmodee is particularly troublesome, in my opinion, because they haven't banned online sales. They've given it in the hands of a chosen few. And the issue with that is it has not affected their behavior. We just saw it most recently with Imperial Assault. They're still discounting it, right? It hasn't changed that equation. But I've lost my 1 to 2 sales a day of playmats, which at $40 a playmat, I'd like to have it back, right? I mean, it's, yeah, but will it work? I don't know. GW has been doing it for a long time. It's a headache to enforce. What I see is a lot of ghost stores or sponsor stores, i.e. these online sellers that are selling stuff. You don't quite know who they are, where they're buying them from, and GW is chasing them around, trying to hunt them down when another retailer gets upset and starts pointing them out to it. Asmodee, Yeah, we'll see with that one too. But again, I haven't seen a difference in behavior from the chosen. These people that, by their own mission, move a lot of stuff, but are not changing their behavior. There's still a problem as far as devaluing the market.
Well, I
And
have.
my last great concern with it too is you're keeping us from moving into what will be the future of really the way people are shopping. And, I don't know if that's going to work.
They've definitely taken an approach where they're going to pull the levers that are immediately available to them, and that is, I mean, they don't have access directly to the customers, so they have access to distributors, and they have limited access to retailers. So, in order to prevent, and let's be honest, it's the retailers that are causing the problem.
Sure.
In order to prevent that handful of retailers from making their product basically worthless, that they're going to shut down all things. Now, unfortunately, as John said, they did choose half a dozen online retailers.
Nine, I believe.
Is it 9? Okay.
Yeah, and they never publish a list who these authorized retailers are. So, I know one by default because of the lashback was Cool Stuff Incorporated, right? That was one of the chosen few.
Right. Yep. And the hope was that they would limit their deep discounting and make it a more reasonable discount. And I think we have seen it in many cases. I know I have seen my Xwing sales climb consistently since the agreement went into effect. Customers that I know for a fact bought online are now starting to look at my prices and go, oh, it's within a few bucks of it. Oh, okay, I'll just get it here because I'm already here for Xwing night. But yeah, it hasn't yet, and it's still relatively early. They started at the February, March, something like that.
April
so it's only
1st is when
April
it
1st.
I mean, they announced it last December. April 1st is when it went into effect. So.
Right. So I mean, I would say give it a year and then look at the numbers again. And if these online companies are still selling consistently at 40% off, then it's time to reevaluate the program.
Yeah, we'll see if they will, and that's my greatest concern because GW has been going on with this for years, and it hasn't changed the equation. It really hasn't. I'm going to tell you, for me, Xwing saw a decline. Catan was heavily hit. Catan was protected by a map. Map is minimum advertised price.
I was actually going to mention that while we were talking about this, and that seems kind of like a better strategy, doesn't it?
It is, but we can talk about this a little bit. I'm not a lawyer, but fundamentally, the difference with the map is that you basically, there was a case with a handbag manufacturer in 2007. They got all the way to the Supreme Court and overturned this 1911 decision that fundamentally said that you can't impose a pricing restriction on something. So now, instead of being unlawful per se, it's subject to the rule of reason. So potentially, you could open yourself to a legal case and have to prove that it is okay for Asmodee North America to enforce a map, right? Because the consumer in the end benefits, because my store stays open, because you get, and we're in a unique position, we can argue that fairly well, but I don't feel like they want to take on that kind of legal battle. So this is an easier decision because there isn't any legislation really right now preventing you from blocking its sales channel. That's probably going to come, and there's no getting around it with the internet growing the way it is. The legislation moves slowly. So in the meantime, they're doing this. But to give you an idea, MAP was working for Catan. 48% of my sales were coming from online for Settlers of Catan product, okay, at 10% off, because you couldn't discount it more than that. I lost. So I took an average on my sales from January 2015 to March 31st, 2016. April was 67% decline in Catan sale. May was akin to 50, and then another 75% in June. So
wow.
Those sales are gone.
Yeah.
Not because I destroyed the market or did anything. I abide by the map. People wanted to buy it. 10% off was perfectly okay. I guarantee you, even $42 list price would have been okay. And that's part of the innovation I'm trying to fight here. I understand that a lot of people don't deal with online the way I do, but you can sell online. Just don't destroy the market. And maybe these manufacturers will get through their heads that they're also losing money. Those sales are gone. I don't know if they're coming to my store. I didn't see them in my store. Wherever they're getting them, if it's from Amazon directly or Cool Stuff Incorporated, it's not from my store.
Certainly, none of us wants to be in Asmodee's shoes of having this very, very difficult problem, and then having to talk to a lot of lawyers for a long time to try and figure out what they
Right.
legally can do and cannot do, and how much it will cost to enforce when they do it. So I'm not going to try and second guess what they did. I'm sure they went through a lot of painful meetings with lawyers to try and figure out what the best course of action for them was. But I am happy to see them doing something, right? There's been a lot of companies, certainly a lot of board game companies that obviously do not care. They obviously don't care what their stuff gets sold at. And it makes me not want to carry their product because
Sure.
it's not going to sell in my store. They've basically made it so that even though they put a $40 price tag, MSRP, on their game, everyone immediately assumes, because that's the going price is $25, that is the price, and that I am an idiot for putting a $40 price tag on a $25 game. Like, why
And
would you
Magic,
do that?
Magic is a perfect example of that, right? I mean, when you look at it, a lot of people, when I tell them list price for Magic a box is $145, they look at me like I have a third eye. I'm like, no, it's not $90. Believe it or not, it's $145. 36 times $4, so.
Yeah, and that's one of the things I was thinking about. So Games Workshop, Asmodee have kind of gone down this road, but like, is that because they are not a randomized trading card game? Like, why hasn't Wizards of the Coast done something similar? Like, why aren't they affected in the same way? Why isn't their product devalued the same way? Like, why don't they care when a box is sold on eBay for $1.87 profit? Why doesn't it crater the Magic market the same way it does for like Xwing and that kind of stuff?
I think because potentially Wizards just has the volume. You have so many shops doing this that it does. I mean, they're moving the product, right? With something like, as Gary was pointing out, something like a board game, you have to really have somebody behind it, pushing it, demoing it. Same with miniature games, even more so, right? It's a lot more labor intensive. So some of those other companies that produce these kind of games see more value in what we do potentially and want to preserve it somehow, some way. So.
John's right. The demand for the product is so high that we can sell at a price that's acceptable to us, even though it's higher than what it's going for online, and it will still sell. And there's the secondary market, right? The market for singles buoys up a lot of whatever loss you're taking on sealed product. So that does make a huge difference. Demand is the answer to your question.
Look at Cards Against Humanity as the same thing, right? I mean, I know many a retailer did. Not an authorized retailer like Gary is, who'll just buy it on Amazon, put $10, $15 on top of that, and still sell it in their store. People want it. They want it now, and it doesn't matter.
Yeah, demand is higher than supply. Just easy equation. So maybe it's just a matter of maybe those product lines are not old enough, don't have enough demand to build up a dedicated customer base to keep the prices where they should be, sustainable for everybody.
And Gary's 100% right. Something needs to be done, by all means, if we want to continue to have an industry. And don't get me wrong, we're partners with Asmodee. Formerly Fantasy Flight Games was really the close relationship for us. From the days of Yonder, Discourse, we worked with them. They've been in my store. I consider some of them my friends. I hope that we can move towards a more inclusive and more progressive solution in the future. We'll see what happens, right? That's my ultimate hope. Don't block me. Address the issues, and let's all move on and all make a living at this.
Yeah, I'd say run it as an experiment. Try it out and see how it goes, and then maybe try something new. Don't stick to your guns. Games Workshop.
Not as long as Games Workshop is running this. So.
It's super tricky. I mean, there's always going to be a gray market for this stuff. I mean, there's, like John said, there's ghost stores on there that real game stores will set up an account online under a fake name. And they're getting product from who knows where it fell off the back of what truck. And you just a company like Asmodee, it's just even huge companies have problems fighting that. I mean, even a smaller company, good luck. You can't stop that kind of gray market. So it'll be interesting to see after a year what the top-down controls start to do.
I agree with you.
Yeah, for sure. So we're kind of getting a little off topic. There was more of a kind of back end industry trade talk, which is fine. But
Worst
so
case scenario,
let's
split it in 2 episodes. It'll be fine.
yeah.
Yeah.
So let's circle back a little bit. And
Gee, you asked retailers about pricing, and we went off on a tangent.
no way,
How could that ever happen?
no way. So the actual process of shipping and packing stuff. So how much time do you guys spend? Like, what is your process for incorporating online sales? Like, how many man hours do you use?
Oh wow.
Gosh,
Well, I
that's
have.
tough to break out.
Yeah, it is because it's variable. There'll be some days where you come in and you got, 40, 50 orders, and some days where you wake up and you're like 3 times the size, 150, right? So you're sitting here going, we have some people that are on call. They get called in for that. But in general, I have basically 3 people on a weekly basis. Their shift is about 5 hours. They come in and just box stuff and do that kind of thing. The other thing we've learned is that, and publishers do this too. Amazon has leverage. So for us, there's Amazon. There's a couple other companies that do third-party fulfillment. You take the product, ship it to their warehouses, right? So for me, it may be advantageous to have some hot selling items that I've identified. Look, I don't know, Secret of the Lost Tomb sells really well on the East Coast. So I want to go park, about 50 copies of that game in a warehouse, pay them to fill it for me when an order comes in from me. I don't ship it from here, right? The costs are fairly small, comparatively speaking, and they can ship it cheaper than I can. It also means I don't have to create, because Secret of the Lost Tomb is a gigantic box, weighs a lot. I don't have to carry supplies for that particular board game. They can take care of that, right? So there's the stuff I invest, so about 3 people, about 5 hours a day, and then I don't know how to quantify what it takes at the other warehouses that we got stuff parked at, how long they take.
Yeah.
So,
There's a couple of components to that. Even if you're doing it at a much lower volume like we are, we're nowhere near what John's doing. You still got to have minimum 2 sets of eyes on an order. When you're pulling an order, especially when it's Magic singles, you got to have 2 different people looking at it, because you can't be sending the wrong stuff. You got to make sure that order is being fulfilled correctly. So that eats up a lot of labor. You can farm it out, like to places that do the fulfillment for you. And there are companies that we deal with that do what's called drop shipping, which means that we get the order. We keep no inventory at all. When we get an order for something, we send it direct to the manufacturer, and they ship it direct to the consumer. And we just get a cut of that sale.
You're right. We actually have a process. Every order has a checklist on the back. Our mail order goblin is our basic mail order position. Has to follow through, but the final box, the quality check, is the troll's position. He visually inspects each one of those orders before it goes out, and he puts his initials on it. That's a management task. Sometimes if they get overwhelmed, they get passed on to the supervisor on the sales floor, or chief battle mage, he calls himself, or to me sometimes, right? I mean, when the defecation hits the oscillation and you got orders coming out the wazoo, I will go and be a grunt and quality check stuff, But it's important. It's an ongoing process of training our employees. Look at the SKU, look at the picture, look at the title, because in our industry we have a lot of confusing things.
Yeah.
Can I put in, this just dawned on me, and I wanted to take a quick step back to these selling channels, because I was thinking this would be a very useful tool for people who just want to dabble and start off in, is that okay?
Yeah, let's do it.
So and it also segues into a more encompassing and more, potentially more inclusive solution to these problems of, there's a company that used to be called Shopatron, and now it's called Kibo. And it's an interesting model, and what it does is basically there's only 2 manufacturers right now in our industry to use it. There's Blue Orange Games and Yellow, and I want to commend them for taking this approach to the problem. Fundamentally, what Shopatron/Kibo does is it's an online selling platform that you incorporate into your website. So whenever you go to the Yellow website and you're placing an order as a consumer, what you're actually doing is using the Kibo engine to place an order. That order goes out to the list of approved retailers for Yellow, And you can basically say, oh, you go to your shelf, you look at the product, you go, yes, I have this. You click on, I want to basically try to fill this order. And then Kibo, Shopatron figures out who's the closest one, so shipping is cheaper, et cetera, who's got the higher reputation. It awards that order to you. You put it in the box. If Yellow wants it, Yellow doesn't take any fees, but the Orange does. They can take a cut of it, kind of situation. And you get the order, you get the money minus the handling fee of Kibo and whatever, if the publisher has decided to put a fee on that. So it's great because you only bid on the orders you can fill. So if it's a busy day at the shop and you're like, I'm not even going to look at Kibo, you don't. If you're like, man, it's kind of slow, let me see if I got any orders. Oh, okay, I'm going to compete on this. And you might not win all of them, right? And you don't compete on price or anything. You just click to accept it. It's all the same price. The beauty of that is the publisher can set whatever price he wants on his website. You know, it doesn't matter. The consumer is buying at X, you get what's X minus the fees, and you're set. And for somebody who's just starting with online shopping, the great thing about it is you go at your pace. If you have time to do orders, bid on them. If you don't have time for orders, don't click that button, and then you're done. So,
and even better, Yellow pays the fees, not the retailer. I mean, there's no subscription fee. I should to be more specific. You do pay a fee on the sale, but last I checked into it, there was no subscription fee to be a member of the service.
You pay. You can literally sign up to be a retailer there, and you pay nothing until you sell a product. And so my heart goes out to Blue Orange Games and Yellow. And I even talked to Christian about this, and he did put it down in his little notebook. So there is hope that they might be looking at this. Okay, so shout out to you guys. I know you're listening. I appreciate it. So, but it's, again, for me, for a beginner, it's great because you can literally do it at your pace, and that's very important. Right? You don't get overwhelmed.
Very cool.
And there is also a not insignificant chance that the order that you're sending out to is local to you.
Yes.
And you just got yourself a new customer.
Correct.
Yeah, now that sounds pretty sweet. We'll definitely include the links to that in the show notes for the show because that seems like a really good resource for people to check out. All right, so we've gone over the hard stuff. Let's go over something easy. Let's talk about fraud.
So now we're getting into why you shouldn't.
Yeah, let's talk about why you shouldn't sell online.
Oh,
Some
boy.
of the dangers, the fear.
Well, go ahead.
Just a basic primer on it. People are afraid that either you will go onto a website, you will put in your credit card, you will have your identity stolen, the site is shady, your credit card might be racked up for a whole pile of bills that you weren't expecting, or conversely, you will not get the product that you ordered. Right? So that's a customer's fear. The fear from the retailer side is that you're going to ship out a product and you're going to get chargebacks and all kinds of unpleasant things happening to you. So how big of a problem is it, and how do you deal with it?
You want to go, Gary?
Because our volume is relatively low, we've had very, very, very few instances of fraud. And the fraud that we've encountered has been so easy to detect that we were able to take care of it before we shipped the product. There's certain telltale things about the shipping address being very different than the billing address, and there are other red flags that, in fact, in our system, literally a red flag comes up that says, this thing does not match. You might want to take a second look at this. It's not 100% correct. Often you'll see things like kids going off to college, but they're still using their credit card from their home. So those two things are in different states. But there are some things you can look at. For us, it has not been a huge problem, but we are very aware of it. We know that the credit card companies and PayPal are definitely on the side of the consumers. They want the consumers to feel safe using the system. And unless you have overwhelming evidence, which you should keep, which is tracking numbers and invoices and all the things to say that you did ship this product, unless you have all of that, they are going to side with a consumer who says they didn't get the product.
So not as big as most people would think, but yes, it does exist, and it is a concern. There are, especially if you're like me and you're trying to build it from the ground up and you have your own selling system, the first thing I would advise, if you're going to do your own shopping cart, under no circumstances keep credit cards on file.
Oh my gosh.
Do
Yes.
Do
Yeah.
not. We actually went to great extents to basically finding a system to where we never get the credit card. We get the last four. That's all we get, and we don't, just as a transaction stamp, basically, right? We never handle the transaction. There's nothing stored on our website. If you bring into our website, the best you're going to get potentially is going to be somebody's email address to spam them. That's literally the best you can do. But most of the fraud that we encounter, unfortunately, tends to be not so honest consumers who say they didn't get a product, or um, literally, I think the most we've encountered with that kind of a situation has been with Magic, unfortunately, and that's why we don't really do a lot of Magic sales. Not so much with singles, actually, believe it or not. With sealed product, oh, I never got my 6 boxes. Okay, here's UPS signature. Don't care. Credit card company gives it to them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's not as bad as people think, but it does exist, and you should learn that that's going to be the cost of doing business. You will run into some bad elements, and also suck it up. If the guy says that the corner of his book is damaged and he asks for the cheapest possible shipping option, so you send in a pad of flat rate, you're gonna run into that. Refund them, call it a day, send them a replacement. Make him happy. You'll probably get him back. And hopefully, if it was a legitimate concern, they'll be back, versus like they'll be back because they want to rip you off again, basically. But it's really not as bad as most people think. You just gotta be on the ball with it.
Another advantage to being on a subscription service rather than setting up your own service is that everyone on the subscription communicates with each other. So when, in the rare cases that we do see a fraud, we're able to tell every other retailer on the system, hey, we've just got a fraudulent order. Here's the details. Now you can watch out for them too. But John's is I can't emphasize that enough, to make sure whatever system that you use, that credit card information is not on you. That is a huge amount of liability, and the government and the companies are really, really, and deservedly, because of all this serious breaches, are really cracking down on how secure those systems are. So you do not want to try it yourself. Use PayPal or use some other system that somebody else is doing that verification.
And all the platforms we did talk about, that's pretty standard operating procedure for most companies now, that, credit cards are encrypted.
Yep.
That information is not available, and that's to protect everybody involved. But if you're setting up your own system, that's something you have to keep in mind. That's kind of the danger point for you.
Yeah, and this back in the days when we were first, that's how it worked, right? You would get the credit card and it was stored on the database. We would go back, and after the order was shipped, we would delete the credit card information, leave the last 4. But that's the way that system worked back in the day. It would keep that credit card on file. I'm like, I don't want to see this, So
yeah.
We're talking about like a good 8-9 years ago or something like that. So
Right.
It's changed.
Yes, we used the same thing, and it's as soon as I realized that information was being kept, I dumped the system.
Yeah. All right. And then security, it's kind of related to fraud in a lot of ways. How do you make sure your selling platform is secure? Like, as the customer, how do they know that everything's going to be okay? How do you prove to them?
Ideally, if you're using a third-party platform, they're taking care of that for you, right? I mean, if you're using Amazon, they have their own mechanism, which again doesn't stop the guy, I didn't get my stuff. But with everything else, credit card that belongs to somebody in Indiana, order being shipped to Mexico, right? I mean, these are things that can be prevented by your third party. If not, it's all on you. And you need SSL encryption. You need devices. Like I said, we use another platform that literally just tells us, hey, this guy paid. You're going to get your money. Don't worry about it. Here's the little bit of information you need to ship in the item, and that's all we get. So there's ways to do it, so you limit the amount of information that's on your site, and therefore making it more secure. Because fundamentally, another one is log in through PayPal, right? I mean, we don't get any information. They're literally just using the one button on there. They go to PayPal, they log in, PayPal sends us the money. We didn't get any credit card information. We just got the shipping information.
Right. And that's exactly the system we use, is a PayPal integration system. And they log into PayPal, and we see no information except when the money arrives and where to ship it to.
Perfect. All right, so I think we did a pretty thorough discussion of online sales and all the ins and outs, the different aspects of where to go and what to do, and what software and platforms you can take part in if you so choose. So the question I think it really comes down to, why and why not. So we went a little bit over both. So why would somebody, or why should somebody sell online?
I, I'm a strong proponent, obviously. There's the increased revenue. Again, don't discount because you're not going to see increased revenue. You're just going to see increased work. Greater exposure to your store, your product. I can't begin to tell you. I mean, when I'm in a unique situation, a lot of people travel to Vegas, right? We're definitely a tourist destination. But a lot of people find me through the website, which is what I try when we take these draconic approaches with like Asmodee or GW. It's like you limit my ability to expose your product. Yes, I understand I still put a picture of your product on my website, but you understand that like search engines, as far as when somebody's shopping for a product, don't work that way. When somebody wants to know if I carry something and I can't put any Fantasy Flight Games stuff on my website, I've had people call me up and go, "Hey, I don't see this. Do you have Xwing?" I have to say, yes, I do. And I know you didn't see it on the website, but I do carry it. So there's the increased exposure, and frankly, it's where we are going. People are shopping online. In Gary's cases and mine, some of them are shopping and they're coming to the store to pick it up, or they're finding the store online and then they're coming to the store. So you have to consider something in the next 5 to 10 years as far as online sales. That's why you should do it. Gary, do you want to chime in on why?
I would echo that. I would say that I see people shopping my store on their phone in my store, right? We have a huge selection of miniatures, and rather than thumb through every little one, they'll just sit on their phone and search for keywords and then come up to the store and go, "Oh, you have a male paladin in stock, number such and such and such." Right? Okay, we know where that is. We'll go get it for you.
Oh, blessed be you know where Reaper bones are. Can you come to my store and fix it for me?
Okay, that was a slight exaggeration.
Okay.
We'll go search for a while. But now that we know that it's there, we've got a fighting chance of finding it. Yeah, there's a lot of Bones figures. It is another sales channel. My take would be find a way that you can maximize on a niche, rather than just put your whole inventory online and sell it at and market MSRP and just sell it as a commodity. I don't think you're going to have much success that way. When you're starting out, you got to sell at your own pace. Otherwise, the amount of work will quickly become overwhelming, and the little fees will nickel and dime you to death. So find a niche that works for you. We found a lot of success selling Dice Masters singles. The collectible dice game that's superhero based from WizKids. It's a fantastic game, and there's very few people out there doing singles for it because it's hard to do. There's dice, right? Dice are very bulky. They're hard to identify. So we found a lot of success in getting successful in that market because we're able to fulfill that particular niche.
Cool. Good advice. I like that. And we got to hit up the inverse. Why not? Why shouldn't somebody sell online?
You want to start this one first, Gary?
Sure. Time and space. Time and space are the two big killers for setting up online. It takes time, even if you have an integrated system, it takes time to list and coordinate things. It takes a lot of space, far more than you would expect to even ship out Magic singles. It takes a lot of boxes and areas and scales, and make sure that you are, keeping everything that you need on hand. And most smaller game stores simply don't have the physical space or the time to do it. And then there's the manpower, right? The manpower to pull an order, check it, make sure that the shipping is actually what the machine says it's supposed to be. So you're double checking that. It can distract you from working on your store, working on your business, to make this little bit of money, which it's nice to make money. It's nice to make a sale, but could you have used that time to work on your business? I don't mean work in your business. I mean work on your business to try and improve your systems, try and improve your customer service, try and work on training programs or any of the other million things that a game store owner should be working on. So I would say, think about the maximal use of your time. Are you going to get the money out of this that you want, or is your time better used doing other things?
Yeah, and I'm going to mirror a lot of the stuff you said, actually, which is, I was looking at my list of why nots, and those are definitely there. And, for us, yes, you look at people like Cool Stuff Incorporated and stuff like that, but understand this, they got there in a certain time frame, et cetera, et cetera. For us, it's been a building over 19 years, right? It's a lot of resources. And what's important, what Gary said, could you be making more money by focusing on your business right now versus trying to chase a 10-cent profit or a $1.87 profit on a box kind of situation, right? So I'm going to add just a couple more. We talked about fraud. It is going, as much as fraud you can possibly have in your store, it's going to be exponentially bigger online. I said it's not a big problem, but it's still there, right? So if you're in a situation where you're like, oh, I'm not making a lot of money, I should do some online sales to try to bolster myself up, that might be the worst possible case scenario to do, because now you're not prepared to weather those losses when they happen, right? Mm-hmm. And creating a bad environment for your customer who legitimately you might not have gotten his 6 cases of magic you shipped, right? I'm going to put in one final thing why you should not right now. Right? It's the current environment, the way it is. It's a very polarized thing, and there's a certain stigma associated with online sellers. When I say that I sell online, people don't even bother asking me, what do you sell at, right? They automatically assume I'm destroying the market. I'm one of those guys that works in a basement in his underwear and just ships out stuff, right? I'm not a legitimate retailer anymore. I am fighting publishers. I am fighting perception from other retailers. I'm fighting perceptions to my customers that go, why did I go to your website and your stuff is not 40% off? So the current environment for online sales, for people that want to start up in it, is rather political. And I'm going to give it that as the final reason why you shouldn't.
Good points. Good points. And that kind of reminded me of something that we didn't cover quite during the discussion at all, was a common issue with customers when you do sell products online. And I've had other game retailers tell me this too, is that if you have the online sales and you have the brick and mortar sales and your prices are different, because you're trying to, you're on the internet, so you have to you got to drop those prices on the internet. And you have the customers who come in and say, well, you have this weird separation between the same products, the same store, but if I buy it online, it's 10% off or whatever it happens to be. So it creates a situation where you can almost be competing with yourself.
We struggled with that for a while when we first started online sales going. Why would they buy in the store versus online? So we talked about in the store, it's retail. Online, it's 10% off, right? In the store, we have a loyalty reward program. Every $10 you spend, you earn an experience point. The experience point can be spent at several dollars. So in reality, it's the same thing. Online, I still have to charge you sales taxes if you live in Nevada, right? So it's the same thing as the store. I think the trick is it's got to be comparable, or by all means, if I'm discounting something, I'm discounting it both online and in the store because I'm trying to get rid of it, right? I don't have a problem with that. So the trick is you can't make them different, and also understand that the culture you set up in your shop. Yes, I have a lot of people that forget my store. I'm selling online. They could go to Amazon. They can buy there and potentially get it cheaper, or Cool Mini or not, or any of these other, not Cool Mini, Cool Stuff Incorporated. Yeah. They shop in my store because they like the store. They understand the price of being able to have a table and all those good things. So I haven't seen that. I haven't seen people going, well, why should I bother? Why should I come to your store and buy retail versus I can go to your website and do it? It hasn't happened. Matter of fact, when we move, we'll be able to have more product in the store, so we'll be able to expand on the order online, pick up in the shop. Most people have not used that option, to be honest with you. Most people just come in and buy it on the shelf, with the exception of more tech-savvy people that like it that way, and that's fine.
Any comment, Gary?
No. I think that I've seen the same thing. I was very, very concerned about making sure that our prices were, the same in both the online environment and the store. It can lead to some serious problems when you do that, but we haven't seen that. We also do keep the prices the same because we have an integrated system where we set one price and it's the same on the shelf as it is online. So we haven't seen that, but yeah, you can, which again leads to stores doing business as other names online, which that's going down a shady road that I don't particularly care to go down.
Closing thoughts?
I think I gave them in the why and why not, to be honest with you. For me, it's simple. It's something we've been doing for a while. We would like to continue doing it. I feel that it's something that moving forward will be more and more prevalent with people's shopping patterns and also just customer engagement, how you acquire customers. So to some capacity, everybody needs to do a little bit of it. Do you have to do crazy stuff like we do? No. If you get to that, great, awesome. If you don't, and you're happy, you're making money in your store, you're taking care of your community, continue to do what you're doing. Just understand the customer acquisition process has changed over the years, and that's important to understand that. We have limited control over influencing customer behavior. If they decide that the only way they're going to shop is on their phone, on the website, whatever, I'm all for facilitating that process, not throwing barriers up to that process.
I would say the same thing. It's the ability for not for now, but for the future, to anticipate how customers are going to want to shop your store. It's going to get more and more common for people to be using their cell phones to find out if you have what they want. And you better have some kind of infrastructure built to handle that.
I like it. All right. So let's wrap it up. If listeners wanted to become customers of yours, where do they go to buy from you online? Since we've been talking about this the entire time.
Well, for us, www.shopofmagic.com. Not everything we have is listed on the website. Matter of fact, very few things are listed on the website, comparatively speaking, because it's an ongoing process of putting it on there. There's a live customer support. You hit a button. We can put it on the site for you right then and there, or you can come by the store and visit us here too in Vegas. But shopofmagic.com is where you're going to find us.
For us, you can go to hauntedgamecafe.com, and that's our blog. From there, you can follow a link to the online store. If you want to go directly to the online store, it's thehauntedgamecafe.crystalcommerce.com.
All right. Sounds good. Well, thanks, guys, for coming on the show again and, talking online sales with me and the listeners. I think we did a good job of covering all the details. I think,
most of them, yeah.
Almost
it's a long conversation.
Yeah, we definitely spent a fair bit of time breaking it down today. It was a little bit longer than usual, but thorough, and helpful, hopefully.
Okay.
Even, with the crappy video difficulties that we've been having the entire time.
I was wondering if it was just me. I'm like, I'll just keep it in the button.
Yeah, no, it's just up and down, up and down.
And that's the thing about online sales is there's definitely a learning curve of things that are outside of a lot of people's comfort zones. A lot of us, don't understand the intricacies of how things get shipped and all the tiny little details of, if I get a subscription to this postal service, they'll actually save me half a penny on every, stamp that I buy. And yeah, it's there's a lot of little details involved with this.
Yeah, and as you scale up, those half a pennies start to really add up fast. All right. Okay, so this is the real sign-off. We're actually going to say goodbye.
American Mises has had enough. Come on.
Very good. Take care, guys.
All right, bye.
See you guys. Bye.